My name's Andrew Stotz, and I'm going to present my latest research so you don't have to read it. It's on Sinotai Engineering, one of the stocks in my portfolio. I'd like to explain why it's in the portfolio. First of all, I sat down with the president to try to understand a little bit about his thinking, how he runs the company. From that, I was able to understand, in particular, the conservative nature of the company these days. It's accumulating cash, waiting for its next opportunity. But cash gives you a lot of opportunity to raise your margin, particularly when the other competing peers are not in such great financial situation. What I wanted to do is look a little bit at the government side of things, and what you'll see is that government spending on infrastructure has actually been flat over the last few years. So despite the last government's talk, this government's talk, they haven't spent. And when they haven't spent, eventually it starts to build up. Now, what we can see also is that Thailand has a budget deficit right now, but Thailand's constraint on the budget deficit right now is not very tight. There's plenty of room for the government to spend. So what would they spend on? Well, there's two things. The first one is mass transit. Well, anybody who's been in Bangkok knows it's a nightmare. Extensions to mass transit add a lot of value for Thailand. And the second thing is logistics. What they're trying to do is move from trucks to rail. That's the major change that they want to do over the next 5 years or so. And so let's look at that for a second. What you'll see when we look at extensions, there's a long list of extensions that are coming, and this government, I believe, can be in power for a long time to come. Whether the actual government changes or not, I'm not so concerned. It's whether the party behind the government changes, and I don't think that this Pheu Thai government is going to be able to get knocked out. And as a result, they're going to do a lot of spending, and as that spending comes, Sinotai has a chance to bid for those projects and get them. The second thing is related to the logistics. I talked about how we have a lot of truck traffic rather than rail traffic, and that drives our logistics costs to be expensive, about 7% of GDP it shows in this chart. If you compare that, to put it in perspective, to the US, where there is a lot of rail, of course it's not apples to apples, but let's use it as a benchmark. Thailand has a ways to go. We could reduce it maybe 7 to 6 to 5 if there was a real focus on logistics and railway. Now let's look at Sinotai itself to see what's the situation of the company. First thing, if we look across Asia, we can see it's got the lowest level of debt of almost any contractor in all of Asia. In fact, it's cashed up, so its net debt position is very, very strong. 30% of its balance sheet is in cash. Now, what we can also see is that the returns of this company are much less volatile than its peers Italian Thai and also CK. It's not yet up to the regional average, but for Thailand, what Sinotai Engineering is doing is a very strong improvement. We can actually see that improvement in the latest numbers. That chart before was based upon a long history. This is based upon recent data. From recent data, we can see that the return on invested capital, a powerful measure of return, is rising quite substantially. So this company now, and that's a remarkable thing when you consider how much cash they have on the balance sheet. The point is the cash will be deployed on investing in new projects, and that will earn them a higher return. So let's look at that for a second. Let's look at the share price. What you'll see is that in the share price, the company has finally broken away from its peers, Italian Thai and CK, a while ago, but has yet to outpace the set. I believe once they announce bigger projects, they'll be able to outperform the set. Let's look at that, because that's interesting. If you think about it, a contractor is a very volatile stock. We have it in the portfolio because of its defensiveness, the amount of cash, but also the potential for growth. This chart on PE is very interesting because it shows when good news comes out for contractors, the price booms. And so right now we're down at about average. If we get good announcements of big projects coming up over the next 6 months or so, we should get a massive share price move. Of course, contractors are very volatile, so you may want to sell into the strength of that move if it gets up to where it has in the past. But for right now, I think it's worth making a bet on given the conservative position. If we look at the ROE relative to price to book, it appears a bit expensive. I would be willing to pay that because I think the cash is going to be deployed and give me growth over the next 3 to 5 years. So that's it. Summing it all up, that's the story for Sinotai Engineering and why I have it in my portfolio. Thanks for listening.